Welcome to Crossroad Connection. My name is David Schuringa, and we're trying to reach out and help those who can't help themselves, speaking out for those who are unheard. So welcome to the program today, and I have a special guest, good friend of mine, is Peter Vandermeulen. Peter Vandermeulen is the coordinator for the Office of Social Justice for the Christian Reformed Church in North America. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, I'm delighted to finally get you on the program because, the things that you are involved with in the ministry are very dear to our hearts. So,
And
welcome.
Likewise,
Yes.
It's good to be here because the things that Crossroad has been involved in are just right down the alley that we hope to support. So, we're
Yes,
just glad to be here.
our organizations do resonate quite well, don't they?
They do.
It's
yeah.
and it's nice to have other people out there that you can share because of our theological kinship and all
Right.
that.
Right.
Just so to help people understand this a little bit, an Office of Social Justice in the church.
Right.
Why?
Well, it's a little unusual. You won't find a whole lot of churches with offices of social justice, and we ought to say the full name too, because we shorten it up now, Office of Social Justice, because it's easy and we like it, and the acronym is OSJ, and it has a nice kind of ring to it. But the actual full name, and this was very carefully done back in 1996 when we formed it, is the Office of Social Justice and Hunger Action.
Oh, that's right, because it is a part of
Right.
World Renew.
Exactly. Well, it's not a part of World Renew. It was designed separately from World Renew, and I'll get into the reason why we did that. But as you know, my history is with World Renew, which then was known as the Christian Reformed World Relief Committee. And we were just talking before the broadcast of some of the countries that Crossroad is in, like Sierra Leone, where I have spent significant amounts of time in my years overseas. And actually, the interesting thing is, the Office of Social Justice and Hunger Action was really born out of Sierra Leone.
Oh, really?
Yep. It was born out of the experience of World Renew and World Missions, which is another Christian Reformed agency, as you know and your listeners may know. And it was born out of our experience trying to get our arms around one country in hunger and missions. So we had this integrated rural development program which included church planting. And that church, by the way, as you know, still exists and it's thriving. But we started that in the late 1970s, early 1980s. I arrived in around 1988. From 1988 through about 1995, during the worst of the Diamond Wars, if you remember, in Sierra Leone and Liberia. We had a situation where there were diamonds being mined. They were called blood diamonds. There was a movie made about that. It was a horrible time. People were getting their arms chopped off by rebels. It was chaos. And then, in fact, the Christian Reformed Church's ministry was almost completely wiped out in the matter of 2 weeks.
Really?
About $20 million and 20 years of work. In 2 weeks' time, we looked around and we could see only people scattered all over the place. Literacy, rooms had been burnt, churches had been torn down, etc., by the rebels in a particular area called Caranco. The whole country was in flames, including the capital city. And so I can remember the missionaries came out. We had local staff there who we continue to support throughout the entire troubles and still do. And we sat down in Dakar, Senegal, and we said, what just happened? We thought we had the perfect model. You know how people are, right? Even especially missionaries. Well, we'll get it right this time. Yeah. And we'll get our arms around this country. Well, we found out that we had forgotten a really important thing, and that really important thing was we as missionaries and as people who are concerned about the gospel and spreading it in word and in deed can't build little isolated islands of safety and expect that to just be good, right?
Of changed people.
Of changed people who are not affected by what's going on around them. They are embedded in the world.
In a system.
They're embedded in a system, and they're embedded in their communities.
Yeah, I see where you're going.
And so if we were going to be serious about mission work, we were going to have to be serious about the systems within which the people that we loved and had come to know had to survive and exist. And the system in this case was the way that diamonds were mined and marketed. To make a long story short, Paul Kortenhoven, myself, a few other people, and a lot of other agencies, including World Vision and including World Renew and others, got together globally, and within a period of about 2 years, were able to put together the Kimberley Accords. Now, it wasn't just churches. It was a whole group of really, really well-meaning people from Canada, the United States, all over the world. Long story short, again, the Kimberley Accords still exist. I believe those accords now allow you to go to a diamond merchant, buy a diamond, and get a certificate saying this diamond was actually mined and marketed in proper ways, and people were treated properly in the process. And so we have a new way of digging and marketing diamonds, which made it not profitable for rebels and violent people to try to sell them on the black market.
When I go around and speak, I try to help people see that with prison ministry, for example, that and many in our churches too are all in favor of Bible study for prisoners, and the importance of a heart change, and the importance of a different moral foundation upon which to make decisions once they are released. But many want to stop there, thinking that the other problems will kind of take care of themselves. Now, we, from a Reformation point of view, we see the world in a little different way, don't we? Yes, so I say we must change sinful hearts, but guess what? Sinful hearts also created sinful systems that have to be changed, right?
Exactly.
And but why does that make some people nervous?
You know, I don't know why it makes people nervous. I think it makes people nervous because when you begin to change systems, you're changing significant things that really affect a lot of lives. So you want to get it right. So there is some of that. There's a legitimate fear of changing a system because it really affects deeply a lot of people. But that's another good reason to change unjust systems.
And also with changing systems, you can frequently think about one issue at a time, right? For example, right now I am involved in, I'm on a board for the Campaign for Justice, because in Michigan we have, I think, the 48th worst public defense system for poor people. You know, how can anybody be against that? It'd be un-American to be against it, you know, let alone unbiblical, because in Amos, the Bible says it's an abomination if poor people do not have access to the courts. So we can peel away at one aspect. We don't have to like say change the whole system, but let's go after these areas that are clearly against Scripture, correct?
That's a really important point. And it's also, people also are frightened of it because it can be political. I mean, if you're going to change systems, by definition, that's a political process, whether it's a global thing or whether it's what you pointed out in Michigan. But it doesn't have to be a partisan process. That, I think, is the role of Christian leadership in this whole thing. That's your role. That's my role. That's the role of anyone who feels in some way that they have some sense or some need to be a leader in their church, in their small group, in their family. Because if Christians don't step up and say, look, this is not a Republican issue, this is not a Democratic issue, this is an issue about how we live our faith in the world. And it's critical to get it right as Christians. If we don't do that, we are in sad shape, because we see what happens when we have the polarization that we have right now in our country, in the United States anyway, and in Canada to a certain extent, where you have extreme left and extreme right, and nobody's talking to each other. Christians have a role.
Well, they do, and Christians need to stop having their agenda co-opted by the political left or right, you know? And say, hey, it's not a Democrat issue.
This is the third way.
It's not a Republican issue. It's a biblical issue. You know, I was at an Acton Institute event not so long ago, and Father Sirico was speaking, and he referred to socialist justice. You see, you know, an extremely pejorative term. Basically, I see it as sort of diminishing the entire social justice endeavor as socialist justice, and that's partisan. I think, even though I respect much for what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, I guess for me is, we just have to constantly be showing people from the Bible.
Yes.
This is why this is important. This is why this is important.
It is rooted and drenched in the Bible, what we do. Mm-hmm. It is also rooted and drenched in our traditions. What we're doing, what you're doing at Crossroads, what we're trying to support at the Office of Social Justice, there's nothing new there, as you well know. For years and years in our Reformed tradition, this has been what Reformed people do. They build society. They contribute to that from a biblical Reformed basis, and we've got lots of tradition behind us in what we do, and it's drenched in our own experience.
Yes. Well, and it also embraces the whole church, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because you do have some people that, they're more evangelistic minded, and we need them.
We need them.
And then we have people that are more worldview minded and system minded. We need them. So it's not like we look at anybody as being the bad guys.
The body has many members.
Yes.
We have different callings. If we fit together in humility, and in the awareness that we don't have the full truth, any one of us, all together in our own selves, boy, we can do amazing things. I mean, you and I have both seen some really amazing things that the church and the organizations associated with the church have been able to do in our lifetime.
We got to bring this to a close.
You bet.
But can you tell me a couple of initiatives right now that you're involved in that are dear to your heart?
Well, one of the big ones is immigration reform. Again, a touchy issue because it has been, at least up until recently, so partisan, right? Mm-hmm. But in the United States, reforming a broken immigration system, which is really hurting families, children, mothers, fathers, etc. We don't even have to make that point. But reforming that, and the church has been in the lead. The Christian Reformed Church has an official position about that. We've been doing lots of education on church between borders. But more importantly, the church with a big C, including the National Association of Evangelicals, the Southern Baptists, all of the churches, finally, in the United States, have really found their voice on this thing. Mm-hmm. And I think, I can't prove this from scientific research, but one day maybe we can. I think the church really moved the needle on immigration reform and made it possible for both Republicans and Democrats to come together. And now it's an exciting time because now the new law is being written. And we're part of that.
It's a wonderful thing to see that. I think it's just from reading the Bible and what it says about aliens and strangers.
Yeah, it's so clear. If the church can't lead on this one,
you don't have to be a theologian.
What can we do?
To get that? We have like over 3,000 students in detention centers.
Yes, the detention population is huge.
And what we see, because they're not American citizens, they get even a worse defense than people in Michigan, poor people in Michigan.
Right. That's right.
There's no rights.
That's
for
right.
them.
If you're not a citizen, you got no rights.
You got nothing.
And that's not right.
Well, we're happy to see that. Are there ways for our viewers to get involved with the Office of Social Justice?
Well, the best way is really to find out a little bit more in terms of the information, find out what you're interested in, whether we have some things that might be helpful.
You're on
the
web.
Our website is really simple, crcjustice.org.
crcjustice.org, and that'll be popped up on the screen, too.
That will come to the welcome page, and then from there you can go to all sorts of places, including Crossroad.
Oh, marvelous. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Hey, it's been great to have you here. We got to talk again sometime. I'm sure we could talk for a long time.
Yes, we could do a whole week's worth of these.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for watching Crossroad Connection. We're seeking to reach out to those who are left unheard. Peter Vandermeulen has been with us today to talk about these marvelously important issues of our times. Thank you for being with us, and we hope to see you again right here next week.